Hello, and welcome back to Pet Talk. Again, I'm Joe, Second Chance Animal Shelter dog trainer.
And my name is Cheryl, and I'm the Executive Director at Second Chance Animal Shelter. Welcome.
I hope you've been with us in our last couple of shows. We are, in fact, trying to do some education and get some general knowledge about the animals that we love so much and keep in our homes out to you. And as we always say in each one of these episodes, if you have any questions or if there's something that you would like us to talk about, contact us. We would love to be able to answer some of those questions. Contact information is?
Info@secondchanceanimals.org is the email. The website is www.secondchanceanimals.org. Or you can write to us at Second Chance Animal Shelter, P.O. Box 136, 111 Young Road, East Brookfield, Mass. And the zip code is 01515. And we're out here today because we're out talking about the animal world, so this is a good spot for us to be.
Yep. One of the things that that we try and impart upon our adopters and anybody that we work with in terms of behavioral issues with their animals is the first part needs to be understanding what that animal really does understand. Many of us try to use our own human experiences and our human world to deal with our pets. The unfortunate part of that is they're not part of our world, they're part of the animal world. So let's take a look at the animal world and what that structure is, how that society works, and how it's different than our human world. In the animal world, there's a pack leader, and there's usually between 8 and 10 dogs in the pack. The pack leader is totally responsible for the welfare of that pack. And the 8 to 10 animals that are in there respect that. The pack leader is responsible for finding food. The pack leader tells them when they're going to move, when they're going to rest, when they're going to sleep. And unlike in the human world, if we were structured that way, we would probably be a little offended if someone was trying to control us in that sort of manner. But in the animal world, the pack leader is the ultimate decision maker on what that pack does. In our human world, we wish to treat each other with mutual respect. I will be kind to you, you will be kind to me. Also in our human world, we have a tendency to always want to be up at the head of the line, if you will. In the animal world, the pack leader is the ultimate person, and in the pack, they will determine amongst themselves what that pecking order is. Who's going to be number 2, who's going to be number 3. So if we were to look at a pack in its environment, we would find during feeding time, the pack leader will eat first. The rest of the pack will kind of stand back until that pack leader is done eating and walks away. Once that happens, the rest of the pack will come in, and again, in the pecking order, the number 2 dog will get the better spot, the number 3 dog will get the lesser spot, and so on down. Why is this important? Why are we even concerned about this? As we begin to deal with some of the very common behavioral issues that many of us see with our own companion pet, it's important to understand what the dog understands so that we can speak to the dog in dog language, if you will, as opposed to human language. Many times that we're called with behavioral issues, what we usually find is that the owner is trying to deal with it in human terms. Unfortunately, our dogs don't understand our human terms, so we need to understand what their world is like so that we can direct the behavior that we want to see from our pets.
It's kind of like trying to have your teenagers listen to classical music instead of rock or rap. Pretty much the same thing.
Absolutely. In the dog world, the 2 major events for a pack in the wild is walking, and that's when they're out looking for food, or they're migrating, or they're looking to protect their territory.
Or the eating, which is what you just talked about.
And the second part would be eating. And as we just talked about, there is a definite structure in how that feeding period goes on. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is, and we see this frequently from pet owners, is how to walk a dog. We have people call us and say, I just can't control that lab. He drags me down the street. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is what are the proper techniques? what works with our dogs so that they're not pulling us down the street, and that in fact we're the ones that are giving the walk and the dog is the one taking the walk. We thought that we would use one of our own dogs, Babar, to kind of demonstrate what the proper techniques are in walking a dog and why it's important. So I think right now what we'll do, Cheryl, is just take a little break.
Yep.
We're going to get Babar out here, and we'll be right back to kind of walk through that for you. So this is Babar. Babar is one of our dogs. Babar is a 9-year-old pit bull who we rescued when he was a puppy out of one of the municipal animal control centers. So Bub has been with us pretty much all of his life. Pit bulls get a lot of press, a lot of newspaper articles about them, but we're gonna take a whole segment later on to talk about breed issues, and one of the dogs that we'll talk about will be pit bull, but that's a story for later on. When we walk a dog, we want the dog to be what we call at heel. We want Babar to be even with us. We don't want him walking in front of us. Many times we'll see pet owners walking down the street and they're struggling to keep the dog, and the dog is walking in front. In the dog world, what's happening is the dog has become the pack leader. The pack leader always walks in front of the pack. The pack walks several steps in back of the pack leader and would never go in front of the pack leader unless they were trying to challenge. So when we have dogs that walk in front of us, basically what's happened is they've taken over leadership. Again, in the animal world, once that dog takes over leadership, that's when we begin to see all kinds of different behavioral issues. So as we said earlier, one of the most important things in the dog world is walking. So we want to make sure that our dog is walking at heel with us, not in front of us. One of the ways that we do that is little corrections with the leash. If Babar was to take a few steps in front of me, I would simply give him a little correction with the leash, or I would stop, just totally stop, have Babar go to a sitting position. As soon as he's relaxed, like he is now, then we can proceed again. Many times in working with owners to get the walk down, we'll spend an hour and maybe 6 feet, because we'll take one step, the dog will go to pull, we'll stop, make the dog come back to heel, sit with us. We'll take another step, the dog will pull. Sooner or later, they get the message. They know that we're in charge. They don't need to worry about anything that's going on. We have that all in control. They relax, and we have an enjoyable walk. There are some very good tools that can be used for walking a dog as well. What we're using here is called a choke collar, something that I only recommend for folks who have at least a good amount of dog experience, because this kind of a collar in the wrong hands could be a problem. But there are some other good tools. One is called a gentle leader. I'm going to show that to you. I call this the magic tool. We have a lot of folks that come and adopt dogs from us. They'll adopt Labrador Retrievers, high energy, Goldens, high energy, and the new owner, the mom, is a little petite woman, and the dog probably weighs as much as she does. So what we'll do is we'll teach them how to use what's called a gentle leader. I'm going to describe this to you. It looks like this. This is the part that we're going to attach our lead to, and this part, which slips up, come over here, bub. I want you to sit next to me. Come over here. This part slips up. It goes on Babar's muzzle. This part is going to go around his ears. I'm going to show you how we do that. When you first use a tool like this, the dog isn't going to like it because it's going to go over his nose. So he may be interested in trying to get it off. We'll see how Bubby does here. What do you say, bub? We're going to put this on, and we're going to snap it up behind. So what we have here, we're going to take our lead, and instead of controlling Bubby from his neck, which is the strongest part of his body, we're going to actually control him from under his muzzle. What you will find is an amazing transformation in dogs that have not been trained to walk. Once you put this on them, they completely relax. Now what's happening is when we control a dog from the neck, as we pull back, because that dog's pulling us forward, the dog is going to pull more. When we control the dog from underneath his muzzle, as we have with the gentle leader, what we're going to do is give Bub a little tug up, and you can see he's already responding to that. So we're actually controlling him from his muzzle. And what happens is they immediately get the impression in their dog minds that we have total control over what's going on, and they will walk totally at ease with us. The important thing with a gentle leader like this is to make sure that we've put it on properly. It needs to be tight enough around here that he can't slip it off, and whichever side we're walking on, we want that gentle leader to be facing us. If I were walking on Babar's right side, I would not want the gentle leader to be on the left side because I don't really have that control. I want it to be here so that if he does decide to pull, I just give him a little tug up and he'll comply. Great tool. Again, I call it the magic tool. We use it with a lot of the larger dogs that go into homes and they have issues walking. So I'm going to take this off of Babar because I know that he hates that feeling around his nose. They will get used to it. It's no different than putting a collar on them. It's no different than putting the lead on the collar. But as you can see, his whole demeanor just changes once we put this on. Awesome tool. These can be purchased pretty much in any pet store locally or any of the national chain stores. And again, it's just an awesome tool. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into what we need to do. We talked about the animal world. The reason we wanted to know about that is when a dog walks in front, in his world, he becomes the leader. We always want our dog to be at our heel. I always try to hold, good boy, Bubby, good boy. I always try to hold the leash very close to Bub's neck so that I can keep him close to me. Holding the leash out like this only will encourage the dog to walk in front of you, and that's not what we want to do.
One of the other things is house trading is probably one of the #1 reasons that people will surrender animals. And they say, I've tried, it doesn't work, I've tried everything. And what we find out is the #1 thing that they should be doing, they don't do, and that is getting on a schedule. If the animal doesn't know when it's going to get to go out, then it's going to have an accident.
They have no alternative. They unfortunately can't use the toilet, so they have no alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of it as if you had to go to the bathroom and you were driving down the road and you didn't know where the next bathroom is. Of course, it's on your mind, you really have to go. If you know it's 5 miles down the road, you can wait. And I think it's the same thing for an animal. And our animals sometimes are in the house 5, 6, 7 hours by themselves. They don't have an accident because they know the cycle, they know when we're going to be back, and they're fine. The first thing you got to do is rule out any kind of medical issue. We had a cat recently surrendered to the shelter that the owner said was peeing everywhere. Well, it was a young cat, fairly young cat, 4 or 5 years old, and it was peeing everywhere. Well, come to find out, the cat was diabetic, and that's why the cat was peeing everywhere. As soon as we got it on the medication for the diabetes, the issue stopped. So you need to rule out medical issues. It could have a urinary tract infection or any other number of things. So veterinary care is important. You want to rule that out first. If there is no medical issue, then the next thing you need to do is get them on a schedule. Bring them out to the same spot every time. When you first bring an animal home, you might need to take it out every 2 hours. Just until it gets comfortable with you, with its surroundings, and where it's going to go. Once it gets used to that, then you can expand the time. If you really have an issue with housebreaking, especially when you're not home, then my recommendation is to get a crate. Dogs really do love their crate. I have a lot of people who say, oh, I don't want to put that dog in the crate, it's cruel. It's not cruel. They're very comfortable in there. You want to make sure it is a comfortable spot. You want to make sure it's big enough for them to turn around, but not big enough that they can mess in one area and then move, because they won't mess where they sleep.
Yeah. Instinctively, we talk about the dog world. Instinctively, animals do not want to go where they live. Part of the problem that happens when we place a dog into a new home is the day that they walk in that home, they're not sure that that's their home yet. So it may take 24 to 72 hours for them to recognize that this is my home. The crate thing that Cheryl talks about, again, if we look at dogs in their environment, Dogs live in dens. The dens are usually very small. 3 sides are protected. There's only 1 opening. So when we crate a dog, we're recreating the same kind of situation that they have in the wild. They're very comfortable. As humans, we look at it and think, God, I really don't want to put my dog in that jail. That's a human reaction. The dog's reaction is, wow, this is very comfortable. Instinctively, because my DNA still has it in me, I find this to be very easy for me to live with. I only have 1 opening to protect. I'm pretty happy here.
Yeah, and you can also make it a very pleasant spot by having a toy in there that they don't get any other time except that when they're in there, so that it's a very pleasant experience for them to go in there. You can also, provide them a treat when they go in. So and our dogs, all we have to do is say the word crate. They go right to their crate, and they know, and they're very happy. Sometimes after we open the crate, they don't even want to come out. They're very content. They're asleep and they're fine. The other thing you want to do is, I hear people say, well, I caught him having a mess in the house and I stuck his nose in it. Not going to work no matter what. They have a very short attention span, and if you don't catch them in the act, you might as well just forget it, move on, and keep an eye on them. If you catch them, then you need to make a big deal for them that that's not acceptable.
Yeah, they would have no idea of what it is you were upset with. Many people say to us, oh yeah, no, he knows that I'm upset with him because he'll put his head down and he'll cower. Actually what he's doing is he's cowering because he's feeling your energy. He knows that you're upset. He's not really sure why. The whole thing of having mess in the house, he doesn't remember. 10-second attention span for adults. Puppies are usually in the 3 to 4 second attention span. So if you've missed him peeing or pooping in your house more than 10 seconds, he's going to have no idea why you're upset with him. And really what you're doing is you're giving a negative situation to the dog. He's going to be concerned that you're upset with him. He's going to be upset. Studies have proven that positive reinforcement with a dog, praising them when they do good things, works just wonders over the old school of training, which was negative reinforcement. I'm going to tap my dog on the nose with a rolled up newspaper. Negative reinforcement. What we're doing is we're creating a fear in that dog of us as owners. We talked about being leaders. That's going to break that situation down. So the positive reinforcement, as Cheryl said, when we take them out to their duty spot, if you will, and they do in fact eliminate, we want to have a party. We want to celebrate. Good dog, great dog. If we have a little treat in our pocket when we're going through the initial stages of house training, we want to treat that dog. And what we're doing is creating a very positive relationship of, I go to the bathroom, something good happens to me. If I go to the bathroom in the house, I get absolutely no attention at all. I simply am taken outside and giving a chance to do that. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement.
And the bottom line with everything is you want to be the pack leader. You need to make sure that you're the one in charge of the house. I've had people say to me, I can't take my dog off the bed. He'll growl at me. Well, the dog is being the leader there. You're not. You need to deal with that, because what I find is if they don't deal with one situation, then it goes on to a next and next. And the next thing I know, the dog is being surrendered to the shelter because the dog has all this behavioral issue. And then we get the dog, and within days, we can correct all these issues, and the dog is successfully placed. And people don't understand, you just need to spend a little time. What you invest in it is what you're going to get out of it.
Again, we're looking at their environment, their world, and we're going to address them in that case. It's just an interesting thing. We get numerous phone calls during the course of a month. As Cheryl said, I've had my dog for 3 years, and it was sitting on the couch, and I went to move him off the couch because I wanted to sit down, and he growled at me, showed me his teeth, snapped at me. What's happening is that's the dog's couch. He's the leader. You have asked the leader to get off of his couch, and he's saying, no, this isn't going to work that way. So what we need to do is we need to own the couch. We need to invite the dog onto the couch when we want the dog there, not allow the dog to take ownership of that couch. 90-some-odd% of behavioral issues that we address can be related to lack of leadership, and that includes house training, it includes the dog walking, it includes any kind of aggressiveness.
No, that's absolutely true. You really just need to spend the time with the dog. And if you really have trouble, you need to seek out a trainer. And what we always say, if you have 3 trainers in the room, the only thing that they will agree on is 2 of them will agree that the 3rd one's doing it wrong. Right. and so the reason why I say that is if you're not getting the results you want from the trainer that you initially pick, go to a different one. It's no different than us when we go to a doctor. If we don't really, for whatever reason, don't like his bedside manner, don't like the way they are, we get a different doctor. Same thing. We have some wonderful trainers around, but each one has their specialty. Some are really good at the basic commands. Other ones, their specialty is behavioral issues. So you need to find the trainer that's going to work right for you.
So if you have any issues that you think you might need to have a professional trainer, certainly we know pretty much all of the trainers here in Central Mass, and we'd be glad to talk to you, find out what the issue is, and we can at least make some recommendations to you on the trainers that we think would best serve that.
Right.
That
or you can just call around and explain what your issue is, and see if you get the warm and fuzzy feeling when you talk to them, if you feel comfortable with them. I mean, you want to feel good about the trainer that you're using. So definitely, like I said, if you're not happy with the trainer that you start out with, you don't feel you're getting anywhere, change it. Yep.
So I hope that we pass some valuable knowledge on to you. That's really what we want to do. That's our objective. There's a bunch of other issues, behavioral issues, easily modified, jumping up, barking dogs, introducing new dogs into your home, common things that we see on a daily basis. We want to talk about those in later sessions, and hopefully we'll hear from you, and there may be some things that you want us to talk about as well.
Well, we thank you for being with us, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
Thanks. Hope to see you next time.